Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my December TBR. Now last month I didn't do a TBR. That is just because, not because I was lazy, but when it came to filming a TBR, I could not for the life of me think of what I wanted to put on a TBR, what I was fancying, and I decided just to go with the flow and just pick up whatever I felt like at the time. And I feel like that was almost the break that I needed, to be honest, because I feel like sometimes doing a TBR is a lot of pressure, and although I don't put that pressure on myself to read them all, as you would have seen, a lot of months I don't read all my TBR books and I actually mix in some other books that I haven't even mentioned. I just feel as if it was a nice needed reprieve from having like a set TBR. So as usual, I'm keeping it short and sweet. I'm picking 5 books on my TBR for this month, so without further ado, here are the books that I'm going to read in the month of December. So this is going to be a first for me because I have quite a few Christmassy themed books on my list for this month. I'm actually going to try and do a Christmas themed reading vlog, so you have that to look forward to if you enjoy themed reading vlogs, that is. I don't know what it is, I just feel like I want something light and fluffy in the month of December. I feel like last year I read a lot of dystopian because I read the whole Shatter Me series in the month of December, which is just mad. Like, I literally read all of the main books and all of the novellas, and I don't know how I did that, but I did. So this month I just want light and fluffy. I'm not really feeling a lot of fantasy or thrillers. I just want to end the year on a really happy, mushy, positive note. So the first book I was actually drawn to because of the cover, and I don't actually think I've ever read anything by this author before, but that is How My Neighbour Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn. I mean, just look at this cover. I am absolutely drawn in by cutesy cartoon covers. I don't know what it is, I'm just like a magpie when it comes to them, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even read the blurb before knowing that I wanted to read this book or not. However, it does say an enemies to lovers romance. And I love enemies to lovers when it's done well. So from what I've read, this follows a guy named Cole who I think is like the bar humbug of this story, and he just wants to hibernate in his home for Christmas. And then comes along, and this is gonna bother me, Story Taylor, who is our female character. Story? I'm gonna have to look that up because I've never seen that name before, and that is what it looks like. And I'm sorry, I don't care if it's a Christmas book or not. That's cringy, and I hate cringy, so that's gonna be an issue for me. Anyway, she moves in to look after her aunt, and she ends up entering this competition in honour of Cindy, and so ensues this kind of rivalry between Cole and Story, and he doesn't want her to win, she doesn't want him to win, and thus the story evolves. That is all I know. That is pretty much all I have read. I'm just gonna have to look up this name at some point because that absolutely bothers the heck out of me. That could take a star off. So the next book that I want to read in December is a fantasy, and that is The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black. This is the sequel and last in the duology for The Stolen Heir, which is a duology that takes place in the same world as The Cruel Prince. I won't go into what the second book follows because obviously spoilers, but the first book is following Sauron, who was the child of the king and queen of the Court of Teeth in the Cruel Prince trilogy, and then it's also following Oak, who is like the half-brother of Jude from the Cruel Prince trilogy, and they're both like teenagers now, and the queen from the Court of Teeth is doing something that she shouldn't be, and they basically band together to try and take her down. That is basically what the first book follows, and this is a continuation of that. I pretty much only want to read that this month because 1, I feel like I might be in the mood, and 2, I don't like starting all of these series and having really open endings right now. Like, I just feel as if I've got a lot of series that I want to continue on with and I haven't finished a lot of them, and so I want to put one at rest and I want to finish it. So the next book that I want to read in December is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. Now, I do believe the UK has a different cover, however I was drawn in by this cover, which is very like pop art cartoony. I love it. It just looks kind of like vintage. I just like it, and I love the title. I've never read any Ali Carter before. I do believe she used to write that YA spy series. Yes, she did. But this essentially follows two writers. One is named Maggie, and she is the new queen of cozy mystery, and one is a guy named Ethan, and he is like the big time thriller guy. They are both invited to like this estate by a very well-known famous bigwig author, and at one point she goes missing, and there's something in here mentioned about a competition, and Maggie's not sure whether Eleanor's in danger, whether Ethan's part of the competition or like whatever. But essentially both of these characters have to come together and basically try and figure out what is going on, where Eleanor has gone, and why they were brought to this manor in the first place. I think this sounds so fun, and I wanted something away from the usual romance cozy side of Christmas. Obviously there is possibly going to be a romance aspect in this book, that is pretty obvious, but I feel like there's a fun mystery aspect to it as well, and I just think that's so exciting. So I'm really, really excited to read this one. So the next book that I want to read in December is another fantasy, and this one keeps catching my eye, and it irritates me because it's a Booktok book, and we all know how Booktok books can go. I also heard a sound on TikTok the other day that was like a clip from the audiobook that's going to be coming out, and I'm just really drawn to this book, and I feel like at some point I'm just going to have to read it because so many people love it. And it's called Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So this story follows a 24-year-old young woman named, and I hope I'm not butchering this, Cerise Fane. I'm going to have to look that one up later. But she basically possesses these really strange powers that no one knows about. And she is kind of like a thief, and she's been picking the pockets of the Undying Queen for years. And one day she ends up opening a portal to another world where the land of the Fae exists. And for a really long time they've been known to be a myth. However, she lands herself in amongst a war going on between the Fae, I'm guessing, and someone else, or like two kinds of Fae. Anyway, she ends up binding herself to this like Fae warrior, and he wants to use her for her power to, I think, end the war, and that is pretty much all I know. It's a little bit intricate for me to understand anything in this blurb right now. I do believe this is a fantasy romance, and the only reason I've been putting this off is because it's 624 pages long, and that terrifies me because I've read Booktok books that are like 200 pages long and they feel like they're 1,000 because they take so long to get through and they are so bad that I just, but I need to read this. I need to know if the hype is real, because I do believe that this got picked up by a traditional publisher. I'm not sure, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it did. So then the last book that I want to read in December is actually the first book in a series of short stories that I would really like to read this month, but I'm only going to mention the first one, but that is Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. Now, this year for Valentine's Day, Amazon came out with this set of 5 short stories that were all kind of like Valentine's romance based. They've done the same thing this year for Christmas, and they are basically all Christmas romance stories. I really enjoyed reading the ones during Valentine's Day just because it introduced me to some new authors whose books I'd really like to read. Obviously one of those was Abby Jimenez, and she has turned into one of my favourite romance authors this year, and I'm hoping that this series will do the same. Now the first one is by Ali Hazelwood. Obviously I've read a bunch of Ali Hazelwood books, so I'm hoping I'm really going to enjoy this one. Now this first book essentially follows 2 former childhood friends, and a stormy winter night ends up meaning that they basically end up being snowstormed in, and she, I believe, broke his heart at one point. I'm sure it's going to be really good. I think they usually average around about 100 pages long, if not under 100 pages long. This one is saying it's 73 pages, so it shouldn't take me long to get through the 5 books. I don't even think the last series took me a week, but I'm very much looking forward to reading all of the books in that series. So those are the 5 books that I'm hoping to read in the month of December. If you have any kind of like Christmassy themed books that you're going to be reading this month, then let me know what they are in the comments below. If not, just let me know what you're going to be reading, because I'd love to know. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content from me, then don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. So bye guys.